Yes.
But I mean, Saturdays gets kind of round. I kind of
Yeah.
feel like I want to just go
Is
to
that
the
you?
other one in the morning.
Oh,
I
oh,
just
right,
joined
okay.
so we can share our stuff.
Okay. I remember now. Okay. Okay, so
All
we
right,
can
I'm gonna
start.
start live streaming,
Yep.
so all
Call
discussions
to order at
as far as is up to see.
6:07. Okay, welcome guests. So does anyone have public comment versus recording? Okay.
We have listed everybody that's here.
Oh, I can say that.
So we have
So
Roger
we-
Bennett,
Yes.
Eva Patel,
Yes.
Yes.
Dwayne Martinez,
Wayne.
Eli Duker, Brandon Walsh.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to, so no one wants public comment? Do you want? Okay. Modifications to the agenda. I wanted to bring up the stream gauge. We could do that under LWRP. And the a new member going into executive session to okay, new member, whatever you call it. Okay, so are there any other modifications?
Thank you very much.
Also, I would like to move the meeting schedule up to right after annual elections. The meeting schedule is 8A. So we can, unless that's a problem. Okay.
No, please.
All right, so annual election of secretary and chair. Okay, so are there any nominations from the floor? Yes,
Sorry, I'm doing elections for the CAC, I'm calling that these. Sorry.
yeah. Every
This
year.
is
we
our
have to-
organizational
yeah.
meeting, so
Oh,
every year
we
okay.
forgot to tell you you
Oh,
were the
okay.
chair, so. No, we're just, so,
You should probably also acknowledge that Brianna is no longer.
right, so I just wanted to say that, yes, I want to say that Brianna chose not to be reappointed, so I want to acknowledge formally her contribution. And
I also need a letter. Did she send you something in writing that says she no longer wants to serve?
I might have gotten a text message. But,
I could also use the email that you sent, which is she's no longer going to be serving, just
Okay.
as the formal.
okay,
So, but she's been removed. So
Okay.
anyone who has an under on a distribution list for your emails, you should just remove her from the communication.
yes, but you can always thank her for her help. And also, I did so Kevin and I had, our terms had expired and I have taken my oath of office. So,
I haven't gotten my appointment letter.
oh, wow. Okay. Oh my God.
Okay.
How can we elect you secretary?
Because he serves until
So.
either he submits a letter that says he's not doing it, or the mayor removes it.
No, what I did was I did this board, the CAC and the preservation fund on one application.
And you sent it, you did.
Sent it in back in December, like almost weeks and weeks ago.
Okay. I'll have to
Yeah, it
check
must have
that.
gotten dropped because I got mine like
Usually.
in a day.
Usually I do, but.
Okay.
Okay, there was a lot coming in
Could
all
have
at
been
once
a
with.
Christmas
I think
situation.
they all go to
Yeah, that's what I
summer. We're
figured.
coming in a lot with the community preservation thing.
Yeah,
Either way, you still are considered a member of this board unless you either submit me a letter, even if your term expires technically.
yeah,
unless you
right,
submit
right.
a letter,
I've
or-
been through that in other boards where people serve until.
Yeah,
they get
So he is,
told
so
they're not gonna
Kevin is
serve.
still eligible for secretary if somebody wants
Okay,
to
all
nominate.
right.
I would like to nominate. So it's out there.
Okay, you're gonna nominate him secretary?
Yeah, and I nominate you chair.
Okay.
Yeah, I second that, if one
Okay.
can second such a thing.
Is there any discussion? Okay, shall we vote as a slate or individually? Okay, so we're gonna vote as the entire slate, Secretary Kevin McAvoy, Chair Emily Hauser, all in favor?
Do we have a quorum to do
Yes.
that?
Yes.
If I recuse and you recuse.
Oh,
You don't have to recuse.
On the vote, even though if I'm nominated, I shouldn't?
you can vote.
If you choose to, you can. I don't think that you
Well,
have to.
that might mess with the quorum.
Well,
So
there's,
I guess we won't do that.
there's, right now, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 6 people appointed. That means quorum is 4.
Oh, well, okay,
Yeah.
we're not taking the larger.
It's the number of people that are currently
Right,
appointed.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, got it,
All right. So, all in favor?
okay, aye.
Aye, okay. Any opposed? No. Okay, all right, the motion carries.
Over to my house. I think it's probably some junk.
And I just want to tell you that the way that this works is that the quorum is the number of people on the commission divided by 2 plus 1. So, all right, review and approval of the minutes.
When did you add in the executive session and the Brendan Walsh introduction?
I didn't.
Where do you want to do that?
I don't want to do the executive session while we have guests here. so,
Okay.
Can we do it right the first? Can we
be
just
anywhere.
wait till new business?
Wherever you want to.
Um,
Although it could be under N, old business N, TAC average distribution.
Oh, yeah,
list of
let's do that.
improvement. Okay.
all right, and then the reason yes, so the meeting schedules, we usually set the meeting schedule, and Malia's not here yet, but let's wait till Malia. We just want to confirm that this second Tuesday at 6 is still working for everyone.
Yeah,
I know
and what
what
were
I
you
see
saying
what you-
before about changing something? About, you mentioned something about changing a meeting?
No, we were just changing it in the agenda.
Oh, okay.
All right, so let's just quickly do the minutes and go on to the guest.
I accepted everything that you did,
Okay.
and if you have more, just.
I just have 2 things. And by the way, the minutes that are in the middle printed are Emily's minutes.
Yeah,
Under old business number 1 on line 3, where it says the environmental assessment phase 1 is completed. At that time, it was still underway.
business.
Under planning projects and land use.
Planning. Wait, which one?
That was the Kingston Wilderness Environmental Assessment.
Mhm.
Oh,
It
right,
says it's completed, but at that time, it was not completed. It was
I
underway.
probably did that.
Okay.
And the only other thing is on the last page, there, reports and updates,
Right.
Ulster County EMC,
Mhm.
Speaker Adam Bosch of Patterns for Progress, it's just pattern, although I always mess it up. Sometimes I say patterns, sometimes I say pattern, then I looked it up, it's pattern.
Pattern.
Yep.
Singular.
Singular.
Okay, so I've been doing it wrong for like the last 20 years. Okay.
At least you're consistent.
Yes.
Nothing else.
Okay, so, are there any, is there a motion to accept the minutes as corrected? Or do you want to wait?
I make a motion to accept the minutes, as corrected. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, then, thank you for that. So we're going to bring Eli up as the Kingston Air Quality Update. Did you have slides or you
Yeah.
were speaking? or-
I have it.
I did have that.
Yep.
Okay. So did you want to go to the front of the room? Yes.
Sure. Someone tell me when it's not too long.
Yep, I have a hook.
Thank God.
All right, let's see here.
I was asked by the CAC to come in and kind of give a report on the air quality data that we've been generating in partnership with the city of Kingston. The Kingston Air Quality Initiative, which is the KAQI here, is what we call it. We've been working in partnership with the city, really through the CAC for about almost, 4 years now. And we are really excited. We've just ended 2024 clearly, and in the new year, we get to dig into the data that we've collected through this work. And so you all are going to get a sneak peek at the data. It usually takes us a month or so to get data, that we can send out to the public and put on our websites and put out as press release. But we're going to give you kind of a sneak peek at what we've seen so far for 2024, how it compares to other years in terms of air quality in Kingston. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've been measuring on the rooftop of Annie Murphy Neighborhood Center, which is where our sensor is located and has been located for the last 4 years. The difference between what we're seeing with that kind of regional picture of what's happening with air quality and what we're seeing at the neighborhood level in Kingston. So, and we're really excited to be able to talk about this because back in 2020, as Julie would tell you, we had no data really in terms of what actually was the air quality like in Kingston. And the city, is tasked often with figuring out how to make air quality better. But if you don't even know how it is to begin with, what does that mean? How do you measure your success and that kind of thing? So it has taken some time. And interestingly, when we started this, it was January of 2020. And little did we know that would be the weirdest air quality year on the face of the actual earth. So we had to wait 7 years afterwards to be able to get a sense of what really actually Kingston is. So anyway, I'm really excited to show you. The folks that have worked on this are at Bard College. They're part of the Center for Environmental Sciences and Humanities. And the lab from which we bring work that supports the community, both on water quality and air quality, we call the Bard Community Sciences Lab. And what we do is we put together, I just want to give you an overview of how it is that the city is working with Bard College here. What we do is we put together our work with communities with the work that we do with students. And so we use the resources that are in most academic institutions for learning purposes. We use to help communities also make measurements of air quality and water quality. And so we basically harness the energy and the expertise that we have in our students and faculty and staff. And we work in partnership with our fellow community members, looking at these really important resources of the community that we are a part of. In the work that we've been doing at the Community Sciences Lab, a lot of what we do is just remind faculty, staff, and students that actually the community partners that we're working with are actually protecting resources that are the things that we're drinking, the things that we're breathing. It is our air, our water as well. And so it's not necessarily that we're just handing out resources from BARD. We're actually using those resources in a way that teaches students while also helping to keep an eye on these important resources. So we're in the Hudson Valley. We know that our air is pretty good, we think. And our water is so good that it's shipped down to the city regularly. So the job that we're doing many times is helping communities understand just the good thing that they have and how to protect that. Because I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it is very expensive to go back the other way. So we work with the Hudson Valley Air Quality Coalition, which started soon after we started the Kingston Air Quality Initiative, and is a gathering of community members every month that get together to talk about air quality issues around the Hudson Valley. And we also work with Farm Hub. We share air quality equipment. They're doing some work looking at how air quality can affect crop growth. And then we've also worked with the Kingston Emergency Food Collaborative. That's been more on indoor air quality and water quality, which I won't talk about today. All right, so this is a kind of a map with Julie Noble at the top of the regional air quality system, the systems that we've set up so far in the last 4 years. Kingston was the first. Kingston was the leader by letting us put these put our air quality sensors on the roof of the Andy Murphy building. Since then, we've been able to convince Bard. We have one up on Bard's library. We now have one up on the Adrian's library in Poughkeepsie, and we just finished putting up air quality, a regional air quality sensor network in Newburgh on St. Mary's College, on their library. So we now have 4 regional sensors, which means that they are on the roofs of these buildings. So what they measure is not necessarily what we're exposed to at the ground level, but what is being moved around in a regional way. So if you have bad air quality on a roof, you can assume that there's bad air quality at the ground level. But it's what we're finding out is it's much worse at the ground level than we thought. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, and then these circles here, so those are the stars, and then the circles here are what we call purple airs. I don't know if folks are familiar with those. Purple airs are the size of the half of a beer can. We put them up at about 18 different libraries now. We have Hudson Valley Library Air Quality Network. And then, so these represent libraries, and then also private citizens can put up these air quality sensors in their doorways. And it's a way to publicly be able to see what's the air quality like in certain places at certain times. Ulster County has also put some up recently near where folks are running. I think the Linear Park and some other parks to give folks the capacity to see what's the air like before I go out running. And we'll talk about this more in a minute. Okay.
Eli, is this the full geographic extent of where the sensors are located?
Yeah. So we've got Bard all the way down to Newburgh covered at this point, and we're the only sensors in town. The Hudson Valley really has been unmonitored until now. So if folks, just to make sure folks are familiar, particulate matter is what we are really focused on, and that's what the EPA tracks in terms of whether or not air is good quality or bad quality. They measure it in size, so the particle sizes are what matters, and PM 2.5, which stands for particulate matter 2.5, is the size particle that is the most hazardous to human health. It is the size of 2 or 3 bacteria holding hands. So it's very tiny particles that are microscopic. You cannot see them with your naked eye. However, when you inhale them, they can go into your lungs and then into your blood. And now we're can also enter the brain. So they are that tiny. These are the kinds of things. So PM 2.5 is really what the EPA is very interested in regulating. PM10, which is a little bit larger, 10 microns, so 10 bacteria holding hands. Those are the kinds of things that we associate with dust and kind of that kind of, if you're up in an attic and it makes you cough, that's PM10 affecting you. That also is regulated, but not, it doesn't have, we don't pay as much attention to that. But this just gives you an idea of the size. If this is a human hair, this is fine beach sand. These are PM10, and then these are the PM2. Okay. So PM 2.5, go ahead. So PM 2.5, which in terms of the sources, and we'll talk about it more in a minute, but it's really about combustion and incomplete combustion. If you burn anything, no matter how you're burning it, and no matter what you're burning, you're creating PM 2.5. It's soot, basically. So if you've seen soot or you've engaged with soot, it's very fine, and it's made up of these microscopic particles. So PM 2.5, the short-term effects on people, if they breathe high levels, are coughing and breathing difficulty, eye and nose irritation, headache, anxiety, skin irritation, and allergies, what you would expect, right? But these are brief interactions with high PM 2.5 levels. The long-term effects can include stroke, cardiovascular diseases, COPD, which is a lung situation, lung cancer, and chronic respiratory infections and diabetes. And the list is actually growing on this side with the long-term effects. And the understanding of what the short-term effects is also expanding as we learn more about these chemicals. Okay, next. So just a quick fact from the World Health Organization is that 36% of deaths from lung cancer have to do with bad air quality, 34% of strokes, and 27% of deaths from heart disease. So air pollution is really a major health issue. And interestingly, we know more about water quality than we do about air quality anywhere I go. Maybe not California, because they're learning really the hard way right now. But air quality is something that we don't think about as much as water quality here in the Hudson Valley, but it's just something that we should. Okay, so the sources, as I said, so sources can be traffic and vehicles, household emissions, which largely is about heating, right? Industrial emissions, wood burning, smoking, and forest and wildfires. So those are the major components that create, the major things that create PM 2.5. So you want to think about in the Hudson Valley, the things that are going on. We actually do have industrial emissions. We have an incinerator that incinerates garbage in Poughkeepsie, right? We have components of each of these in creating the air in the Hudson Valley. So that's why, one of the things that we were trying to establish on the Andy Murphy roof was, what is the basic air quality like? The next step was to find out what were the sources, and we're still in that phase of what are the sources. So here are beautiful pictures that probably only I really love. Maybe Julie does too.
I love it.
There we are in the Andy Murphy building. It's got the best view of any air quality sensor probably ever. So there's two sensors. There's the weather station and the particulate matter sensors.
And it is well positioned, because despite the high winds, it doesn't seem to move, which is really, what was my fear, and it hasn't moved at all.
Do you remember? So we installed it in 2020,
Yeah.
I think on January 2nd or 3rd, and then on the 5th was the largest wind event I've ever experienced since, and it didn't go. But I was sitting in there with a rope tied to it. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. I was like, Julie's gonna kill me if this falls off.
You're right, you're right.
I know. So, anyway. All right, next slide. All right, so without further ado, here are the data, and I'm going to go through it with you. And this is the only really figure that we're going to go through, probably because I don't have enough time. But this is basically where we started. This is me holding on to the rope in 2020, and then we've got 2021 in the green, 2022 in the blue or green, 2023 in the blue, and 2024 in the pink. On this axis are, and it's a log axis, are PM 2.5 concentrations. Okay, so PM 2.5 is measured in mass. It's micrograms per meters cubed air. And so when we look at what the thresholds are, EPA has a threshold of 35 micrograms per meters cubed. So this line here outlines when air quality went above that threshold. And then we have here when the air quality went above the World Health Organization's standard. And their standard is much lower than the EPA's. They're about 20 years ahead of the United States in terms of understanding the science and regulating. And they actually aren't beholden to the oil companies. So there are a lot of reasons why. But anyway, I like to look at both, because one of them is these are regulations that are that federal regulations, and then these are aspirational, I would say, for a community that really wants air that's healthy. Right? And so as you can see, we do sometimes go over the WHO threshold, and we also sometimes go over the EPA threshold, but much less often. Okay.
So where is March 2020 in there?
Well, what do you think?
I know. I
So I was just going to ask you, can you tell which one where COVID happened?
Yeah.
That would be right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is that yellow band in 2023, is that the wildfires?
Yeah, so the yellow bands are wildfire haze, right? So we had one in 2021. There was from the West Coast. We have the Canadian wildfires here, and then we have we're still working on this, but there are a couple of wildfires that we've been able to catalog in 2024.
Those are local, right?
Those local ones. Yeah, and then also I would say there's probably in here there's probably some Canadian wildfires, but we're still putting that together. Also, the black dots here, so the round, well, these dots here are 4th of July and 5th of July. Okay, so just so you can see that we actually, here in the Hudson Valley, we do impact our own air quality. So sometimes folks wonder if we just get bad air from the city. That's, yes, and we also sometimes get bad air from the West Coast, and we may get some now. But we also actually have a huge impact on our own air quality here in Kingston, and we can see it with our beautiful natural experiments of doing firecrackers.
So in 2022, where there's a black dot at the top of that,
That's 4th of July.
that's from fireworks?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Eli, do you know the
It's
highest
not
spike
very
on,
politically popular to stop doing fireworks, though.
Yeah.
There's
You
other
know,
reasons.
And I'm not saying, this is not me. So what I want you to understand is that you have control over this, and which should be a very hopeful and exciting thing, because there are so many things that we don't have control over in the environment, right? This is something that as a community, if we figure out the things that we want to prioritize, maybe 4th of July isn't the first thing we go for, but there are things that we can do that actually can improve air quality for everyone, and we really should be doing that.
it looks like the highest spike on the chart is far to the left there, that one red, do you know what that is?
So one of the things that you can notice, taking COVID out, is that there is kind of a pattern, and I'm calling it like the breathing of Kingston. And so basically, you have very high, because this is January, February, March, this is heating season. Then you get a lot of rain, which cleans the air. So then it goes down in the spring. It goes back up in the summer, and I think that has to do with recreational wood burning and also with the wildfires that we've been getting every summer. And then it goes back down in the fall, and then it goes back up in the winter. So it's got a pattern. Right, so what we're able to see now is that there is a pattern. There is a Kingston pattern. So we can now take that and look at, okay, in which seasons can we make certain decisions? I know I'm going too long now.
No, you're doing great.
Okay.
So but most of the dip in 2020 was because people weren't driving.
This is absolutely right. Think about it. It's Annie Murphy Building. It's right by. I mean, I drop my kid off for the high school every day. Like that is, yeah, that's absolutely.
I'm sure if you were to zoom in to just weekends, the difference of weekends on Broadway versus the weekday is unbelievable. The difference on a snow day, the difference when school is not in session is unbelievable.
So traffic is a major factor, and that's gonna be more of a factor as we get more development.
Well,
Cars.
traffic is, we don't know yet what is the major factor, I would say. Because these are regional things, and what you would have to do to really make it clear what the Kingston pattern is to take out New York City, because we do get stuff that comes up the river.
So do you know how this compares? Like, do you have enough data from the other points, like Poughkeepsie?
No,
Or is
those
there-
are all new, but we're gonna be starting.
Right,
to
or
do that
from
as
New
well.
York, like, I'm sure people are doing this in New York City, right? Probably
Yeah,
holding
well,
this to compare.
That's an interesting idea.
One of the questions that I had early on was, because this is that was very, very circumstantial, because this is right across the street from Monkey Joe's, and Monkey Joe's roasts twice a week. And I was wondering if there was a visual spike, because I could smell it in my office. And I don't know that we've been able to.
The EPA, no, we haven't
Yeah.
done that yet.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even want to touch that until we have, so now we have 3 years that are untouched by COVID, which I
Right.
think would be.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we're partnering a bunch with SUNY Albany, which is a very well-known institution around air quality, and with the EPA. And the EPA actually is starting to put money into doing smell, like connecting smells with air quality measurements with communities. And so there's some interest by the EPA to come in and do that in the Hudson Valley, which I would love. So we have the coffee, we have the campfires, we have so you can smell things.
Yeah.
Well, how does that relate to air quality? So
Are there other things, like this is looking at these teeny particles, are there other chemicals and things that you're not?
yes, so
bringing that up?
all you're measuring are the particles, right? We don't know what those particles are made of. And those particles are made of, we know that they're made of something that's been burned. We don't know what has been burnt. And that makes a difference because it tells you what you're being exposed to on top of those particles going deep into you, right? So I think it's on the next slide. Sure. Oh, well, okay, so hold on one second, hold that thought. So what I wanted to do was kind of zero in on, so this is one higher level, it crosses the WHO threshold time in our little history in 2024. So I wanted to compare and let you guys take a look at, you all take a look at what does this look like if you expand it and you look at what's on the ground, the measurements that we're making on the ground. So you go to the next slide, hopefully, yes. Okay, so this is the same kind of figure which has PM 2.5 on the Y. Okay, so this is micrograms per meters cubed, and this is zeroing in into what was August. Okay, and we had high. So the blue is PM 2.5 measurements from the Andy Murphy building. So that's on a roof, right? No one lives on the roof. So then we took a measurement from PM 2.5 purple air that's about a mile away. And what we see is that the purples are tracking pretty well with the Andy Murphy building, except when air quality gets bad. Then as the particulate matter builds up, you're seeing that the higher you go, the less there is because they're sinking and they're not going to go high. So the pink is showing you what actually is happening on the ground. And I think this is concerning, and it's not something like, this is something that we want to spend a lot of time on. And this is a sneak peek for you all. But what it is telling us is that, and this would be intuitive if you really think, if you think about it like me, like a geek who understands all this atmospheric stuff, it makes sense that it's higher on the ground. But what we see is that we're actually missing times that exceed the 35 micrograms per meters cubed EPA threshold even. And we're seeing levels that cross the WHO threshold with the at the Andy Murphy building, but actually in certain areas of the city, there is an experience of something that's much higher. So, and that's actually what on a neighborhood level we're breathing, right? And so I think this gives us a sense that there's more to discover about like the air quality in Kingston. You know, we've done this monitoring now for 4 years. I think digging more into what's happening on the neighborhood level and the work that we've done with the Hudson Valley Library has a lot of potential for us to be able to understand which community is experiencing this, why, you know?
Have you been tracking over time the inversions?
Yes.
And are you overlaying that somehow?
So the inversions, yes. So as we have in the past, we will be doing that for 2024. The National Oceanographic, AA, the atmospheric and whatever, they very rudely changed their URL and they moved all their data to another spot and we're not able to get to it. So they broke our inversion tracker, but we think we've hacked it. So we're going to have it back up definitely before we do a press release.
Wait, by inversions, do you mean heat spells?
I mean that the way the temperatures are so that these, I can't explain it, but
Like-
like it's getting trapped, smoke.
Like,
The
I mean, I
smoke
think
gets
New York
trapped.
City was smog.
So if you think about it as like a boundary layer that keeps air in,
Uh-huh.
so the higher the boundary layer, the less dense it is. But if you squash it down, then it has nowhere to go and it just gets really,
And
really
it's
dense.
certain weather conditions that create it.
And
Because,
we're in a valley and inversion is
right,
happening.
because, you know, July was incredibly hot.
Yeah.
But I guess heat, it's in itself isn't necessarily. a
And that's one of
problem
the
in terms
things that we've talked about doing, but haven't actually actuated it yet, is we have the inversion data on a live basis. We could be putting out communications like, there's an inversion today. If you're going to be burning anything, today's not a good day for it because it's inversion and the levels will be high.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Right, but I mean, I'm thinking like in July, there are a lot more air conditioners on, but they don't really give off many emissions, right? It
Well-
doesn't show up in the chart, so.
Only at the power plant that's powering.
Right.
Wherever that is for that community. I have a couple more slides.
Keep going.
And then, yeah, and then, yeah,
Go to the next one.
go ahead.
Let's skip this one for now, but I just wanted to let you know that we did go to the American Geophysical Union, which is the biggest gathering of earth scientists in the world, in
That's the
December.
coolest conference ever, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
it's awesome. No one looks like me. I totally don't stick out at all. everyone is. So, yes, but basically, I just want to let you know that the data that we're generating, and these data, and I'd love to talk to you about this some other time, are from someone who lives in a home near someone who burns wood, and it's we're talking about levels that are 2 orders of or an order of magnitude higher than what the EPA would ever recommend that's happening in their home. So this is something that I think probably would take another meeting to talk about. But, you know, we're finding some real issues that probably should be sorted out as a community. All right, next slide. Yeah, so my coworkers, Desiree Lyle and Julia Beeman, told me I had to have a what can we do slide. All right, so I think, you know, if you're gonna ask me, I think we need to increase neighborhood level air quality monitoring. One of the ways to do that is to check out our Hudson Valley Library Air Quality Network site and see if your library is on it, your favorite library. If there's any library you can think of that really should be participating, that would be great. And then while you're at it, if you could figure out how to help us fund giving these libraries these purple airs, EPA money is running out. But we really want, these little sensors are about $250, and really can make a huge difference for people who live in that area. I think the city could be funding some of these through grants that we could write. We've been able to demonstrate that we know what to do with the data, so I think that might be a way. And then also, and this is really important, I have been a naysayer around this for a while, but it is just true. Recreational wood burning. So I love my fires, but recreational wood burning in the Hudson Valley is probably the number one. It's not traffic. And so the EPA has given us funding and SUNY Albany funding to put new sensors. I think we were talking about that, or I think Desiree asked permission to go up to do the new sensors. So the new sensors are multi-pollutant monitors. So they're going to be measuring everything, including black carbon and brown carbon, which allow us to tell the difference between diesel or oil or wood burning, biomass burning. So we should be able to finally tell exactly what's going on. But the biggest thing that you can do is stop or just slow down your wood burning. That is the most instant. It's an instant win for our air quality. And let me tell you why. We've been misguided. Wood burning is not a climate-friendly fuel at all. The science is absolutely clear. There's no way, shape, or form that it is actually sustainable, and there's no way, shape, or form that it actually helps the climate. We also can take up this idea that Kingston should actually be enforcing its air quality ordinances. And as Julie was saying, we need to pay attention to inversion events. Because no matter what choices people are making, it's possible that they care enough to stop when there's an inversion event that's going to affect everyone, right? Okay, next one. And I just want to remind you, some of this is on the city website, but the science is so absolutely clear that there is no safe way to burn. PM 2.5 is like lead. There's no safe level of being exposed to PM 2.5, really. But when you think about the ways that we heat, wood burning is the worst and the most polluting, and contributes more to our New York State air quality issues than our entire transit system combined. Wood burning.
It's crazy.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, that's.
So yeah, if you go to the next slide, I can show that. So this was a study that was done Western Montana Valley communities. They found that wood burning was the largest source of PM 2.5, ranging from 56% to 77% of measured wintertime PM 2.5 pollution. And in New York State, there's only 2% of New Yorkers that actually rely on wood burning for heat, and they produce 79% of the residential emissions across the state.
Just as a reference, in 2010, when we did our climate action plan, we tried to estimate how many people in the city of Kingston use wood burning as their primary source. And the data results were 70 homes, plus or minus a deviation of 7, 8. So I'm not really sure. Not really sure
Yeah.
how many people. So we're between 0 and 140 homes out of the city, out of
Yeah.
it.
But, and what we're talking about then
But if
is,
it's only 2%, you could buy them out and insulate their
You should,
home and buy
yeah.
them.
we should, but I think what this communicates too is that recreational wood burning, the kind that we do to make ourselves feel good, which is totally fine, and it's why a lot of people moved up here, that is actually causing harm. And it's not the harm that we intend. But I think a lot of people don't know that. I think there's a lot of education that needs to be done around this. And, because I think there are decisions that community members might make differently if it were, provided to them in a certain way. So I think that's it. Yeah.
So one other question, because I was talking about when we had COVID and the numbers went way down, which is obviously related to traffic, but you know, we're already way below the World Health. So is there a certain point where it doesn't make that much difference if it's here or here, if it's below the World Health? Because I just noticed there was that huge dip from
Yeah.
lack of traffic, but maybe it's not that significant because
Well, think about it, it's lack of, like, think about all the things that shut down. Like, it was
Wasn't just that.
unprecedented, it wasn't just
everything,
traffic,
yeah.
you know, we also got a lot less from the city, and there
Right,
were
so it
a lot of
wasn't
things
just that,
went
it's
into
everything.
Yeah, but it's true, traffic is something, I'm not saying it's not, but I do think if we were looking for something, you know how they talk about low hanging fruit? This is it.
right.
Recreational wood burning, the wood burning that we do because we want to feel good, that's the kind of thing that maybe we should reconsider.
Yeah, and the other thing about burning is, you know, there's been a lot about gas stoves. Everyone loves their gas stoves.
Yeah.
I got rid of mine. I've got an induction. I cannot believe the difference.
Yeah, well, and
That's
also,
indoor pollution.
this is
right?
complicated by New York State having, at some point, and now they've backtracked, said that wood burning was better for the climate. And they
They said it
actually,
was better.
yes, and they were actually funding people to do that. So there's also a way where people have kind of been lied to. And we should probably be a part of re-educating, because there are a lot of folks that I know that made decisions that they regret, but now they're stuck. So there's that to look at too, I think.
Oh, really interesting. Oh, really interesting. Thank you so much. Wow.
And is the website still live, right? You can still go and
Yes,
see the live.
yes,
So
there's
what is
the
the
live
website?
data, so you go to, let me, I'll write it down.
Kingston-NY.gov/air quality.
Wait, say that again, Julie?
Our city website, kingston-ny.gov,
Right.
/air quality,
Okay.
and you can get to a live portal, and it's set up where it's like a green box or
Yeah.
a red box, basically, it's green,
So
it's
it's
good,
good,
it's
yeah.
red, it's bad.
Yeah.
So you can see it live.
But
And
also, think about wood burning. Isn't it banned in the city unless it's for food?
New York City. I mean,
I mean, outdoor wood
Kingston?
burning, I thought it was banned in Kingston except unless it's for food.
For food or ceremonial.
Okay.
Enforcement is different because there's no, and we talked about this through the CAC for a while with the fire department, because they don't have a way to measure opacity. So they don't have so the enforcement is based on opacity, meaning if they get a call that says, hey, 101 Wilson Avenue is burning wood and it's creating this plume, there's a certain amount of time that I can't quote the
Yeah.
law, but it's like there's a certain amount of time where there should not be visible smoke, basically, and that's like the opacity of the smoke. But typically by the time the fire department will get there, it's like already not visible anymore. I'm not explaining it very well.
I mean,
But
yeah.
to your knowledge, is there much problem with this in the city with, I mean,
it's
that's
circumstantial. So people who live next to people who were burning wood,
no, there's a lot probably.
You know, you might wanna go to the Hudson Valley Air Quality Coalition meeting, so I can send you all some of these links, because that is where we get a lot of, community members up and down the Hudson Valley that are dealing with this, because you can't move your house.
Right.
So
But
if you're
next door to someone is
continually, right,
Constantly burning stuff,
so so I can send.
but there's no law about that right now, right? Like,
Well,
Not.
the enforcement
not from-
seems impossible, but it's something that science could probably deal with.
wow.
And are the Purple Air, are they real-time sending data?
Yeah, Purple Air has its own map, you can see it. Most of the Hudson Valley ones are either BARD or SUNY Albany. supported.
But it was also pretty shocking to see the effects from the fires.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That was like,
I'm very.
you could actually tell that, I mean, it was awful.
Can I ask just a quick clarifying question? I guess like, if I'm thinking about presenting this to the public somehow, your graph was on a logarithmic scale.
Yeah.
And there were some events you were saying they were an order of magnitude higher than PPA, standard. Just to be clear about the logarithmic scale, if it's an order of magnitude higher, that's not like 10 times worse, that's like thousands of times worse, right?
If it's an order of magnitude, so if it's 35 is the EPA standard,
Right.
and they were experiencing things in 300 to 350. Yeah,
Right,
so
but
it's
that's
10 times.
So 10 times, but that's 10 times in a logarithmic scale, right? So if
No,
you're-
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I see what you're saying. No, we changed,
Okay,
we try to
gotcha.
make it easier to read for
Okay.
folks that don't understand what you do.
That's good, then I'm glad.
No, yeah.
That's
No, it's not 3,500.
And one
Okay.
last question, as of just a perspective, what numbers would we be seeing if we were in LA?
No.
Right now,
Yeah.
I don't even, it makes me
That
even
would be
sick
so
to
scary.
like guess. I would say it would be like 350. I think we'd be in hundreds.
So 10 times.
Easily, yeah, easily, yeah.
Just to put it in perspective,
Yeah, it's,
Yes. discuss.
yeah,
All right.
LA is, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Great. Eli, you're welcome to head out or you're welcome to stay.
I'm staying for these.
All
That's good.
right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, now we have Dwayne Martinez and Caleb Patel, and they are Scenic Hudson's River Cities team.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks Emily for reaching out
Yeah.
after we connected at the Mohawk Consultations Conference in November, so thanks for that. In years past, my colleagues and I checked in with Julie as well, but just an overview of what we're up to at Scenic Hudson's River Cities program. We focus on community-based planning and access to nature in cities. And so there's 3 cities that we work in: Kingston, Poughkeepsie, and Newburgh as we go downriver. But Scenic Hudson has been around for over 60 years, and the River Cities program is relatively new within that, 7 years in. The primary work that Scenic Hudson is known for is as a land trust and as a sort of policy organization that works on environmental policy in the Hudson Valley, the 11 counties, sort of on either banks of the river from Westchester up to Albany. And so our chart is really about closing the nature gap in cities, which is the experience that people have in being in nature. And so Scenic Hudson has and manages over 45 regional parks. But a lot of those are in more rural places. And we just kind of understand the statistics of people that live in cities don't all have access to helpful vehicles. The nature bus in Ulster County is really unique, but so a lot of times people who live in urban centers in the Hudson Valley don't have access to the nature that Scenic Hudson, the nature and the preserves and parks that Scenic Hudson has been preserving and developing over the years. So that's kind of our charge initially as an environmental justice charge, is to kind of focus on the experience that people in cities have with nature in the Hudson Valley. Our mission, this is our mission statement: to enhance the Hudson Valley's inspiration, beauty, and health for generations to come. So this kind of health is something that you'll hear when Kayla talks about a couple of projects that she's working on, and just piggybacking up on what Eli was talking about, just like the data being, some of it feels abstract, but then once we get to it, it actually impacts quality of life and human health as well as ecosystem health. Talked about our 3 cities, and this is kind of weird because we call it River Cities program, but we only focus on these 3 mid-Hudson cities. So there's other cities that share similar qualities or characteristics. Peekskill, some of them are on the river. Middletown, that have similar circumstances for their populations, but these are just this sort of mission that this program focuses on. Some of the framing for our work, it's acknowledging the climate crisis and its disproportionate harm on different populations. We want to highlight the key natural assets that exist in these cities. Like, even though they're cities, they are ecosystems and they have elements of the biogeography and biodiversity that the Hudson Valley is known for. And then connect those with the benefits or ecosystem services that are kind of provided or derived from nature. And then part of it too is to pull that nature that exists in the large landscapes around our cities and invite it back into our cities through policy, land use changes, planning, design, community action. That is to also increase the biodiversity in cities, because we've heard so much about green space being the benefit, like, to humans, but there's a lot of science that comes out that it's not just about being near vegetation or something that is green, but also that being exposed and having quality nature experiences with more species and biodiversity actually increases the health benefits that people experience. And again, I can mention the nature gap that exists. And talk about the nature gap in two different ways. One of it is experience and exposure to nature, and then the other nature gap is in data in urban ecosystems versus data that's regularly gathered and studied in more rural or more naturalized landscapes. So some of what we do is we're a bridge and facilitator, both from the Scenic Hudson as a regional institution, and we work a lot with community organizations or municipal governments. And so we're bridging both the policy landscape and the land trust world, and then community-based planning. We provide technical assistance to both community organizations and municipalities. Both Kingston, Poughkeepsie, and Newburgh have different forms of local government and have different levels of political sway within Albany and DC, and then even within the organization, Poughkeepsie doesn't have a CAC. Kingston's CAC is functionally very different than Newburgh's CAC. So we just acknowledge that there's different ways that we can kind of help out and kind of bridge between these two cities. As a regional organization, we want to share resources and power. Scenic Hudson is a large-ish regional organization. And so we want to make sure when there are initiatives that are mission aligned with what we're doing, that if we can share some of the power, political capital, policy work, time, energy, expertise, that we're doing that where it's that's going to move the needle for environmental justice, which is something that is core to all of our work. And then also Scenic Hudson's legacy of just being an environmental leader, making sure that the Hudson Valley maintains its beauty and biodiversity for generations. And really, we rely on listening to the community and the land. So we have a strong science and urban planning team. The three River Cities team members all have advanced degrees in urban planning. We're urban designers. And so we have a focus on the built environment in cities. But then within the organization, we've got a natural sciences team and a land conservation team. So understanding the mix between what we learned from the land and from more than human life, and then incorporating that with our understanding of cities and social patterns. So I work in Kingston. This is just a little shot of the area, which is now known as Sojourner Truth State Park. So with our land conservation team, that's most of the work that we've been doing in the Kingston area for a while. So this is a little assemblage of parcels that we've been working, this map that we've been working on with the city of Kingston, which we're pretty proud of, and other partners. This is about a 53-acre farm that is the Kingston Land Trust owns. It's their Land in Black Hands property that we helped with the acquisition. And then this orange outline is something that you're probably familiar with, the Kingston Wilderness, but also sort of participating in these land acquisition and land conservation projects
Oh,
in
is that
cities.
Wilbur? Is that?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They
Yep.
kept, at first we thought it was Sojourner Truth.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, this is Rondout Creek here.
Yeah, okay,
And so then this is the Kingston Land Trust Red Fox Ravine.
right.
And so,
And that red is the new prompt, that's.
correct. Yep. And so then here's the city town line as well. So, these large landscape wins in cities are rare, so
Yeah.
this is a really unique possibility, and not possibility, it happens, it's happening. So those are things that our River Cities team isn't working on, but as an organization, it ties back to what we're trying to focus on too in terms of experience and exposure to nature experiences in cities. Also, we've been a longtime supporter of Harambe Kingston and their Pine Street African Burial Ground, both in the initiation and then just also contributed to their capital campaign to build out their vision. So Journey Tree State Park, I'm sure you're all very aware of, but we're very proud of it. That whole land acquisition, transformation of it into a park, and then the sale to New York State to become Journey Tree State Park. We're also really proud of some of the design that we can pull into these projects as well. This pavilion was designed by our senior park planner, Heather Blakey, but she also managed a couple high performing landscape architecture firms and ecology firms. Hudsonia was involved, eDesign Dynamics. So this is another way of sort of sharing resources and power, is that we're able to connect with these kind of world-renowned firms and bring them into the cities here in the Mid-Hudson. This is the Kingston Land Trust Land and Black Hands site as well. I kind of went over that with that other land assemblage. And then we also do community engagement efforts. So tying into the mobility networks, the Kingston Green Line, the New Empire State Trail, we do an annual bike ride called Let's Bike Hudson Valley. We do it in all 3 cities. So that's one way that we're just trying to, again, bring people into some of the work and introduce people to some of these landscapes that they may not have been to, especially if they don't have access to a car. We have been running this community science project called AquaBlitz for the last 4 years. And this was the first year that we did it in Kingston. It actually happened in the town of Ulster at the Lower Esopus, but it's essentially a BioBlitz in the creeks. And so we do it in Fallkill Creek in Poughkeepsie, Quasset Creek in Newburgh, and then now the Lower Esopus. But we try to find places where people can actually get in the creek, which is tough on the Lower Esopus, but there's also, we're paying attention to the Lower Esopus for other reasons right now. The Lower Esopus Stream Management Plan is interesting, and we're kind of keeping our fingers on the pulse of that as that develops.
Excuse me, where do you go in the lower rundown? Like where were the, not the rundown?
Not the rundown, we went into Lower Esopus, which
Oh, I thought you
was,
said also the rundown, sorry.
it could be the rundown. We decided to go in by the Orlando street ball fields, just in the town of Ulster. There's that little, and that you put in there, it's pretty easy to get in for, we provide waiters, and, part of it is for youth to get involved and just kind of get, that experience and exposure to this. But then we're also collecting that data, adding it to an iNaturalist database so that there's, again, we're trying to connect the experience with the sciences so that there's actually building this database of biodiversity data, biological data. So I'm going to pass it to Kayla here to talk about a couple of the projects that she's leading. And both of these are in research and development phase kind of what we're working on, but we're really lucky to have just been, how long have you been with team?
6 months.
About half a year, and 2 really great technical projects that are helping ground our work in data. And so that we're, part of this thrust of getting into this work is that our work has been really opportunistic in the past, where either there's been an ask of us, someone's knocking at our door for us to do something, or there might be like a land project that emerges and, it's too amazing to pass up. So we're trying to ground our work a little bit with some data-driven decisions that help us not make the decisions for us, but help inform what we're doing and help us pull that into the community vetting of like, is this right for Kingston? Is this right for Midtown? Is this right for the Quasset Creek community in Newburgh? So I'll pass it to Kayla to kind of take us through the Urban Greening Index and the biodiversity work.
Okay, thanks. Yes, so I'm just going to share about the 2 projects we just mentioned. The first is this research framework called the Urban Greening Index, and it's basically a spatial tool for supplementing our decision making around urban conservation. So this tool, as we mentioned, a lot of our work is really grounded in the structural and systemic environmental racism and planning and historical decisions that have created these nature gaps that the River Cities team addresses in Kingston, Poughkeepsie, and Newburgh. And we've really prioritized listening to community and following those opportunities, and this will help to actually take some of the data that are representing those differences and put them into a tool that can provide some continuity and some supplemental data to ground those prioritization decisions, as well as provide extra analysis to the projects that we pursue in these cities. And as we also mentioned, Scenic Hudson as a land trust has focused a lot on conserving really biodiversity and biologically valuable landscapes. And so developing a tool that's really specific to urban ecosystems, including those social and ecological data and indicators, is also another key attribute this project can help with. So yeah, it's moving towards this more intentional strategy is one of the key goals, providing some continuity between the three river cities while still recognizing how unique each of them are, both socially and ecologically, and then hoping to, as we move out of the data collection and kind of prototyping phase, really start to catalyze different projects and enable this to be a tool for community partners as well. And throughout this project, we talk a lot about urban greening opportunities, which we're thinking about as opportunities for adding vegetation and enhancing ecosystems in cities where those projects are feasible, there's significant community support, and they have high potential based on those different data for social and ecological impact. And so part of the kind of impetus for this project as well is that there are a lot of spatial decision-making tools that are already helping ground our work and focus our work in Kingston, Poughkeepsie, and Newburgh. And these are really helpful, and there's also room for a lot more detail and specificity to urban ecosystems. So these next two slides just demonstrate a little bit of that. This is a map of the disadvantaged communities from New York State and really identifies Kingston, Poughkeepsie, and Newburgh as key places to focus on environmental justice work. And at the same time, these are at the census tract levels, these different shaded polygons, and so it's not offering a ton of nuance within each of the cities. And we also see this urban greening index framework as an opportunity to incorporate more community conversations and local leadership in what kind of data is being collected and informing those prioritizations.
Question, so, looking at this, and then on the previous slide, it mentions environmental justice indicators, just to help me sort of wrap my head around what concretely this means. Can you share some examples of what some environmental justice indicators actually are? Like,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you're pulling data on?
Yeah, so some of it might be like socio-demographic indicators, like the income level of a specific area, or the population's race and ethnicity, or access to a vehicle or household kind of characteristics that are largely pulled from sources like the census. Or they could be public health type of indicators, like areas that are experiencing high asthma or other environmentally related public health impacts. And then there's also like the exposure component, so a lot of climate hazards and environmental pollutants and
That's where ELO's data might come.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And then so the disadvantaged community criteria, that's something defined by the state,
Yes.
using those environmental justice indicators?
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so these darker areas exceed more criteria thresholds that team has come up with. And so you can see some difference, and there's definitely a concentration of those indicators being exceeded in these cities, which are outlined in yellow in this map.
And just one little thing about this map is that we didn't mask out the other municipalities. Those municipalities just don't have the same highlights. It's so clearly that the yellow outline of these cities, and then that one little bit in Fishkill outside Beacon, and then of course town of Ulster, but like it's no, the rest of the region right around the Mid-Hudson isn't experiencing these compounded impacts as defined by disadvantaged communities from the state.
And what on the top, that's Kingston, right? What's beyond the yellow line? What is that? Is that all Kingston?
The town
Town of
of
Ulster.
Town of Ulster, okay.
And these are census tracts,
Okay.
the outlines are census tracts.
the black outlines are census tracts, and then all the cities that we're focusing on, the yellow outlines, and that same yellow outline, which is a little harder to see in this one, outlines the three river cities again. And this map is showing one of the tools that our science team has developed for conservation for scenic Hudson as a whole. And so this is a similar tool in that it's prioritizing spatially where there's valuable conservation opportunities, and those darker areas are indicating areas that are higher priority for conservation. And this kind of indicates a different gap that's identified and makes there a need for this urban greening index, because as you can see in the yellow outlines, they're mostly white or there's like small patches. And so this shows that we need a tool that really focuses specifically on urban ecosystems to identify where there's more conservation potential and urban greening potential within the cities. And I will also just say that this tool has, I think, a lot of analogs with the community preservation plan and that type of work that Kingston has really been a leader on. And so that's kind of another analog here. And part of this tool, we would hope would be supplementing that. It wouldn't be all the same indicators, and they could really speak to each other and work together. And it would also help to bring that type of analysis to the other river cities which haven't developed those planning maps already. This is kind of a proposed overview of two key components of this urban greening index that we're thinking of, being vulnerability and opportunity. So vulnerability, the question you just asked about, kind of like what are those environmental justice indicators? Those three components kind of get into some of that. Exposure is looking at those climate hazards and environmental pollutants and harms that are impacting communities. And then the adaptive capacity and sensitivity are just two descriptors of ways that a lot of research kind of describes these social and demographic indicators at the household or census geography levels. And then on the other side is opportunity. So these are looking at different scales of opportunity where urban greening interventions like tree plantings or ecological enhancements or park activations might be able to be implemented. So where they're feasible at these different scales that are a lot smaller and more implementable than the census tract level or even other geographies that we've seen. And so that's kind of the scale. And then on the right are those indicators, and we're working on developing the exact data to collect to inform these different interventions. And throughout this slide is these kind of yellow popping pieces, and that's a marker to that we are trying to incorporate qualitative data throughout this framework. And I'll say a little bit more about that after this. These are just some theoretical examples of how river cities work already works at these different levels. We are developing this urban greening index, so it didn't inform these projects, but this is just an example of intervention. So it would start at this kind of vulnerability side, identify areas that have a lot of potential for these projects to make ecological and social benefit, looking at the different scales that we might have opportunities to work at. And then these are some examples of an ecological enhancement, a street tree planting, and a park, an urban farm that the River Cities team has worked on in Poughkeepsie and Newburgh. And then again, these yellow pieces are looking at some of the ways that our community engagement is incorporating qualitative data in here. So as Dwayne mentioned, we do a lot of community engagement events as River Cities team. And so not all data, not all engagements can be kind of mapped and put into a GIS, but this ensures that at least some of those that are able to be either geocoded or kind of placed geographically can be incorporated more systematically into our spatial decision making too. This is just one example of an application where the urban greening index might have enhanced our work that I'll share more about next. This project called Defining Urban Biodiversity This map is just a snapshot of some of the things we looked at while selecting sites for this project. And it's taking a look at what type of wildlife and vegetation and general biodiversity is in different sites in these 3 cities. And so when we were selecting the sites, we looked at things like land cover, and this map shows tree canopy cover summarized at the parcel level. And we looked at things like ownership or proximity to the creek or other forms of potential connectivity, and kind of identified some sites to start looking at. And if we have something like the Urban Greening Index in the future, we'd be able to kind of apply that site selection a little bit more systematically and be able to use that as a tool. So that is the project I'll just share.
So I have a question, so with that, did you work with who would you work with, the city of Poughkeepsie? And say, we've identified this area, it needs more trees, we want to put in pollinator gardens in these sites, I mean, who would you, what exactly, how would that happen?
For this project specifically, it was a variety of different people that have access to those sites, as well as I'll share more about, but this is a partnership with Carey Institute of Ecosystem Studies too. And then more generally, the work would still be really grounded in partnership opportunities and conversations that come up as it has been, but this would help kind of inform which projects to prioritize and.
So I mean, like, would you work with property owners, for example?
Yeah, and so like one of like we go back to like maybe this example here, for example, like the middle example of on a streetscape, the blocks, like that's where there was actually, this is a project that actually happened in Newburgh where we did a GIS analysis of empty tree pits. This was before this tool was being developed, but this is realizing this was a more opportunistic way of doing it, but we identified empty tree pits in the city of Newburgh. But then we didn't want to just go planting trees willy-nilly in empty tree pits. It's like, how is this most meaningful for the people that need it most? So then we did some research and found established block associations. And so then overlaying sociodemographic data, empty tree pits, and then a lot of like door knocking and being able to like connect with people on like, is this useful? And not everybody wanted a tree either. That's the whole other thing. Like, trees are a whole other.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. So, but this block association was willing to work with us. So that's kind of that's again, the qualitative data and the indicators that are coming from the community to make sure that we're not acting.
Right, so you're working with the community.
Yeah,
so that they own it too. It's not
we're
just.
not imposing this, like we don't identify a parcel and then do our urban greening.
Right,
So
right.
this again it doesn't supplant our decision making or our community engagement, it just gives us more information. So that we can then go out and do, because otherwise if we're doing community engagement, like who wants a tree? We're just walking into a city saying, who wants a tree? Where should a tree be? But by doing some geospatial work and some data work beforehand, we're kind of winnowing down where we want to start, knocking on doors.
And hopefully educating people too about the value of like biodiversity, because I don't think a lot of people are aware.
Yeah, so there's all of those other, like, what happens once we start getting closer and closer ecologically, physically, and socially to the work. And urban greening meaning not just the physical creating more vegetation, but urban greening kind of being this bigger picture of what is this action of urban conservation? You know, and that is, it's both it's social and ecological process of changing our landscapes and our ways of being with more than human life in cities. So urban greening kind of might sound just physical, but we needed a way to encapsulate the socio-ecological process.
Communicate the value and work with people to see how it's valuable, because again, I don't think there's a lot of awareness. Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah. You back to, because this is also to your point of communicating.
Yeah. We get webcams of the wildlife that comes in our yards.
Is there time to continue the emerging slides?
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe 5 more minutes, 30, yeah.
Okay, I'll just skip some of these, but this is a project we are starting. We've just begun in Poughkeepsie last October and November called Defining Urban Biodiversity. The partnership with Carey Institute of Ecosystem Studies, the lead researcher is Shannon Ledoux. And this research project is aiming to create a database of biodiversity in mid-Hudson cities and really define what this concept of urban biodiversity is and how we measure it. And it's a partnership with the Carey Institute as well as with communities that we are doing this research in Kingston, Newburgh, and Poughkeepsie, and engaging residents to be community scientists in various ways, which I will.
And so you're gonna be doing this in Kingston?
Yes, we're planning to launch this in Kingston in the spring. So these are the research questions, really just what is urban biodiversity and learning about how to measure it, how it differs among the 3 cities as well as within different neighborhoods and habitats of the cities, and then really looking at ecological function and social function as well. Shannon Lindu has a background in public health, and so really bringing that perspective into it as well as we add biodiversity and vegetation into cities. What does that mean for people, and how is it best to steward those for both people and wildlife and vegetation and other forms of nature? This is a map of some of the sites that we started to research in Poughkeepsie this fall. Those are the green cameras, and the purple circles are the other engagement Green mentioned about aquablitz. So kind of connected around this key natural asset of the Fall Hill that runs through this map. So those were 8 sites that we started to focus on in Poughkeepsie last fall, and looked at a mix of land cover and land use types, different formality, both like vacant, underused lots, as well as more formalized parks. And we used methods including trail cameras and surveys of vegetation and mosquitoes and ticks. And then in the spring, so in April and summer as well, in July, we'll be doing concentrated data collection and hoping to expand that into Kingston and Newburgh as well. So that's something we'll be reaching out to you all as partners, as well as have already been talking with some community partners about good sites to locate these at, in addition to these more physical layers we're looking at, community interest, and whether this data can help inform different conservation priorities already happening in Kingston is one of the major site selection criteria, and we're aiming to select about 10 sites per city. And we're really just at the beginning phases of this. So for the site selection, as well as these additional types of data collection that we're going to add, there's a lot of room for adapting this to best suit partners' ongoing projects and priorities. So that's one thing that we're hoping to collaborate with you all here in Kingston. These are just a few of the photos that we saw in Poughkeepsie this fall, just curiosity. These are 2 different species of fox, red and gray, that were both found in different sites, and a possum over here. There's not a ton of data to analyze yet for like statistical conclusions, but we did notice more wildlife showing up in the less managed, like vacant lots, and then and found like 14 mammals and 4 bird species over those 2 months. And a big reason we'll also be reaching out to you all and community partners is for the different roles that community researchers can play. These are some of the research roles, including site setup and field work, as well as some of the data collection, processing, and management. That can be a really good opportunity for environmental education, goals of community partners and residents, and also for STEAM-based career kind of introductions and opportunities, and also looking to partner and collaborate on kind of telling the story about what urban biodiversity is and what it looks like in Kingston and this region, and also doing outreach generally. And again, here, open to a lot of creativity for these collaborations. That's what kind of just starting this out. So, and one more thing about that project, it's setting up this spring. It's planned to be a longer term 3-year study. So that's kind of
3 years, you say?
yeah. Yeah, so thank you for listening.
I know, that's. Yeah, thank you. So if we see some needs, like pollinator gardens or,
Which we've been talking
or, is there, how do we reach out to you? So.
If you've got our contact, just reach out to us if you've got sites in mind. Site control is key. We're not gonna be trespassing. So if there's,
Yeah.
and if you wanna if there is a more formalized area that you want to be part of the study, let us know. I mean, and especially if you're already doing urban greening interventions like pollinator gardens, which
Yeah.
which are intended to increase biodiversity,
Right.
let's see if they're actually doing that, or if we're getting different taxa that are utilizing the space or not. So, yes, and Shannon Ledoux at Carey, she said kind of funny, she's like, at the end of this, there will be some esoteric academic paper that she writes, but she is very community minded and wants both the experience and exposure of nature for urban populations to be part of it, and the public health component, which is she's tracking a lot of zoonotic disease coming up from mosquitoes and ticks as climate changes and things are coming north. And mammals being a key vector for that. And so, and not everybody in cities is as tick aware or something as folks that have more outdoor leisure lifestyles. And so how to communicate both the benefits and the risk if indeed biodiversity does increase in cities. How do more mammals not mean bad health, but how do we just make the human population more aware of what's going on?
But this project in Kingston, it's mostly a data collecting, right? You're gonna go to sites and see what's already there. You're not gonna like be planting gardens or trees. It's gonna be more like picking sites where there's wildlife and seeing what's there, correct?
Yeah, and then, but then paired with also how are we repairing and enhancing the urban ecosystems with urban greening index?
Which, going to your point, I think the data is valuable. If people are actually aware that, hey, there's like skunks and there's turkeys and there's actually quite a bit of living, of wildlife out there. I think just the data is valuable.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
thank you for letting us know. Okay. Okay, so, we gotta really zip through this. I know, we have a huge
But
amount.
those were great presentations. Thank you.
So some of this, I think, we can pretty much say we're gonna table it till next time, but, planning, when were we gonna do Brendan? Okay. Well, let's just do it now. So Brenda's Walsh here, he was here last time. He's he lives in Kingston.
I live in Kingston. That's right.
He's interested in joining our committee, and we can take action tonight. So he actually just applied this morning. Well, I got the information this morning. He's been working with Julie mostly on organics. And he's at GARD, Center for Environmental Policy, lives on Janet Street. He's interested in joining. He was here last time, so he saw us. So he's, saw us in action. So we would just need to go into executive session for a minute and decide. So Julie and I are recommending him. He's interested and we'll recommend him. Is that correct?
I would love to hear a little bit from Brendan.
Okay.
Also.
Sure, that's a good summary of who I am. I'm Brendan, I'm from Texas. I got my undergrad degree in philosophy. Since then I've done some farming, some part-time shepherding, some substitute teaching. Now I'm working with Julie. I'm doing this environmental policy thing because that policy is the avenue that I really want to start making change through. I really like Kingston. It's been a happy coincidence that I ended up living here, but the work that people in the city are doing has just been blowing me away across the board. And I'd really like a chance to take pride in that by being a part of it. And so I've heard great things about this council, and I'd really love to join. I'm really good at crunching numbers. I also make a bunch of maps, which I always think are great for presenting data visually. I've got, I think, some good ideas. My favorite book series is Dune. That gives you any idea about what I think about things. That's me in a very short nutshell.
Are you graduating this year?
I'm graduating in May, yes. I'm finishing up my capstone now, which is a model that's designed for small municipalities to estimate the costs and benefits of urban composting, municipal composting programs, costs and benefits in social, environmental, and fiscal buckets, I guess.
Great.
Great.
Yeah.
Can you meet on the second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m.?
Oh, and I have nothing planned for the second Tuesday of the month, 6 p.m. or another time if that's what the council decides.
Unless you're going to the Shamrock, right?
Yeah. Oh, shoot, actually, yeah.
Actually, you would go to the Shamrock?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, at 8 p.m.
You could probably go at 8 a.m.
Yes. That's what I was worried about. When?
Oh, great. Yeah, I'll be showing up a little tipsy, but that's a
Right.
joke.
So I can just move a vote or?
We have to go
We have to
into
go into
executive session.
First,
So
so has to make a motion to go into executive session.
we have to go into executive session.
Okay.
So can
I'll
you,
just,
but you can come right back. It's
Somebody
like,
has to make a motion to go into.
yeah,
motion.
okay, I just
Okay.
wanted to let him,
I second it.
all in favor?
Yeah.
Okay,
Great. I'll be going.
so
Should we close this door?
Yep.
Okay.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Good.
Oh, and okay, motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Okay, second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Shorter than mine.
This was short.
Oh, no, comparisons, no comparisons.
My computer always goes off.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'll tell you all about it sometime.
Okay, thank you for coming back. So we're gonna send a recommendation to the mayor that, you be, appointed
Oh, wonderful. Thank
for
you
a
all.
2-year term.
Great.
Oh, I should have asked, so you plan to stay around here even if you're.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah, I'm in it for at least 2 years.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, so I'm just gonna move through this. For planning, I think we had Kingston Wilderness, Lawton Park and Boulevard, Pettit, right?
Yeah.
Pettit. So, anything new, Julie, on the Kingston Wilderness?
I've received the final environmental, phase 1 and the survey and the title, and all the due diligence has been completed. There is nothing red flagging or alarming about the property. We are moving forward with the closing. Right now, it's proposed to be next week,
Wow.
and we will hope to have that all complete by the end of this month. And we will be the owners of 70 acres.
Great. I was just gonna mention whether or not Lawton Park has, not the Lawton Park, but, the land that used to be Lawton Park, yeah, the 10 acres, is there, any news on that at all, since they're trying to sell that property as we discussed it?
I believe they, one of the partners approached the city about acquiring through the Community Preservation Fund. I'm not sure they were encouraged by Bartek. I think, this is a secondhand story, so I probably shouldn't even go any further with it.
Okay, so the idea though, if it was preserved, maybe, okay, so, but
Because-
maybe it could do something with, like what,
Well, that was the
Hudson Valley
original.
allows for
Yeah, but
housing
also it connects to the
conservation.
Walkill. I mean, the whole
Yeah,
point
yeah,
is that's how we
exactly,
connect the
exactly,
Walkill to the
yeah,
city, to
worked on that
Midtown.
study.
Yeah.
It's right in Midtown. I mean, they want more parks in Midtown.
So is there anything
Yeah,
that the
yeah, they also want
CAC can
affordable
do?
housing, so you have two competing.
Well, it's 10 acres.
Yeah, but that's
Could be
what the
housing,
Hudson
could be
Valley
preserved.
allows for housing and conservation is,
We're not involved in that.
but could
That
they,
group,
could
Wait,
they
wait, which
be?
Hudson Valley,
Sorry, I
Alliance.
have no idea what's going on.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
talking about Lawton Park. The owners, from what I understand, it was.
Wait, I just
It's
wanna
like
say,
all through 32.
so Lawton Park is an old, a park, were you here last time? So there used to be a park called Lawton Park. It's kind of by Stewart's on the boulevard in that area, like off to the
32.
left on
Mhm,
32.
mhm. By
Okay,
St. George's.
Is that the Greek Orthodox Church?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, but it's on the
Other
other side.
side, other
It's
side.
on the other side, kind of closer to the
Yeah,
church.
sure.
And Chateau and like, yeah, and that.
Oh, yes, I do remember that, yeah.
Okay, and it's, they haven't done anything with it, so now they're thinking about selling it. Private individuals own it, called Lawton Park LLC, and the thing about if Kingston City could acquire it again, or someone, the Wackel Valley Rail Trail that comes out right south of that, it's a rail. It was a rail, and it went through that, and that would reconnect, and we wouldn't have to have riders on 32.
And you can't really have riders on 32. It would be
Because
a way
it's
to
so
connect
big. So
pedestrian
anyway, so
access and
that's-
bike access to Midtown.
So that is, so if there was a proposal that could kind of, make it so the rail trail could go through or something. But is there anything right now the CAC could do?
Tanya called me yesterday and told me to speak to Paul Manza. He's one of the principal owners, speak to his son.
But what can the CAC
I don't know
do?
what will come of that.
Let
But
the
because-
mayor know, or-
We may want to look at the Pettit Avenue site plan before we jump into Lawton Park.
Is that the development on Bull
Because
Boulevard?
that's got a hearing coming up next week.
The
And that's
hearing
the
is next
development,
week?
right? That's
That-
right next to it.
Exactly, whether they want to put 28 units.
I mean, that's a lot of development.
On 32, there's a traffic issue coming out onto 32. I think the county is considering putting a traffic light there, but I don't know the status of that. Or maybe the city will put a traffic light there, but I'm not sure. There is talk of a traffic light. But it also negatively impacts the connectivity of the former Pettit Avenue, DNAP Street,
Mhm.
which goes into Lawton Park and connects to some of the other DMAP streets, which will eventually get you out of Lawton Park.
So the Pettit kind of goes in there and dead ends, but then there's Pettit is parallel to 32 also.
I just want to, so, I actually have another meeting after this
Yeah.
one with staff overseas, so, I would just ask that we prioritize the things that were like actions
Right.
required from the CAC, like now.
Yeah, that's why I shifted the subject from Lawton Park over to Pettit Avenue, because that has a public hearing question. Do we want to submit comments on that, on connectivity and
When is the public hearing?
traffic or whatever? It's, it's supposed to be Monday, but that's Martin Luther King Day, so I think it's Tuesday.
Oh my God, it's in a week?
Yeah,
Oh.
they just put up the agenda. I mean, often they don't put up the agenda until after our meeting, so we're lucky this time.
All right, so,
I mean, I could go to the public hearing if that's worth anything,
You know, or we can submit written comments.
but I mean, I
does,
don't know
okay,
what to
does
submit.
anyone have any time
I
to
don't know, just-
submit written comment?
Yeah, we had started this a year ago, almost
Mhm.
exactly, a year ago in February, and then we tabled it because the planning board tabled it.
Right, I know.
And they were gonna put up new information, which as far as I can tell, they have not done. And so we're just commenting on the old information,
Okay, so,
site plan.
Julie, can you bring it up on the,
There's an EAF and a site plan and all that fun stuff.
because we would just need to, does it need to go in by Friday or Monday?
Probably by Friday, I think that's what the
Yeah.
planning board.
So I guess
What are
we
you
need
asking me
to
to
decide.
Parcel viewer?
Parcel viewer or street, something that's showing the streets.
You want me to bring up Lawton Park?
Both, yeah, the combination. So just so we know what we're talking about. So if you bring up the parcel mapper, you can put the aerial in, right? So anyway, we just need a really quick decision about whether or not we can approve a letter going on the, to be read at the hearing. I mean, we would submit it.
Yeah,
and they would
we
have-
identified.
Oh, you know what,
the
is
last
written
year.
comments after the hearing? Is there a deadline after the hearing? So I just heard about this, so,
Yeah, I don't know.
okay.
I would get it in by the hearing date. I didn't see anything to the contrary.
I had another group that's related to this, maybe this is totally maybe this is totally crazy. But, you know, there are certain places the city's identifying for housing, like Garrison Drive, right, that's torn down, that I completely support.
Garrigan Drive?
Garrigan Drive, right? We don't, as an organization, want to make a statement about, rather than develop pristine wild areas, why not develop areas that have already been developed that are empty lots? I mean, we want to make a general statement like that, or it's too general? Because I feel like there's a lot of these issues, land is, Garrigan Drive, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
That's ideal for housing. There's a city there. You helped rebuild the city that used to be there. This is totally different. This other land that used to be a park, right in Midtown, where we need a park.
Yeah.
So I know we're getting off.
Just-
I know we got to rush, but I just in my thought, I just thought I'd say
And to
that.
put it in perspective, the man's a senior, not the son.
And I've met this son. He's a kind of idealist.
Yeah, and he's also involved in permaculture and other stuff. It's interesting, but let's talk about Paul Senior, because he's probably the key decision maker here. Paul, his initial concept here was to put worker housing there, not affordable we can get into the AMI discussion and all that, but, worker housing, which has a higher AMI limit. And it never came to fruition. You couldn't get funding. That's the bottom line there. And it never happened. So, from what I understand, Bartek's office is encouraging them to do an affordable housing project, which they could do. And Paul had said he would donate the rail trail and the rest of the open space. He was gonna cluster this, he was using all the, proper principles for, biodiversity and all that. He was gonna do all this and, provided he got the funding. And then donate the rail trail on the open space and reconstitute as much as possible after the housing development is built for an open space or park, restore the park. But that's not happening at this point, so I'm not really sure. I haven't spoken to Paul Junior, haven't spoken to Paul Senior. Haven't
Okay.
spoken to
But when you're talking
Suzanne.
about Lawton Park, we're not talking about Pettit now.
Well, they're both related, because there's these DMAP streets that run through both the sites. And if you take rid of Pettit, there's no access out to 32 from directly. Maybe we'll do it by foot.
This is
And
Pettit.
Again, I've worked on that with Tim Wiedemann and Jenny.
Can you show Pettit?
This is Pettit right here, but it actually ends here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You can
so
see it's
yeah.
a paper
That
street.
section they want, that paper section they want.
and they would be covering
And what
it.
would they do with that? I don't understand.
You would build on it.
Yeah,
It
they're
would
gonna
build on
incorporate
it.
it into their site plan. There's a site plan that's been out for over a year.
Is this on Engage Kingston, this project?
No,
It's up-
it's on the
planning
planning
board.
department.
Okay.
I sent a link this afternoon.
Okay, no, I'm gonna look at
I
that.
didn't see.
I'm gonna
it.
look at that.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so
And is
the
that
point,
Lawton Park, that
That's
wild
Lawton
area?
Park
Yeah.
over
I mean,
there.
that's like
It's a
really nice.
park.
I've been there. It's
it's
beautiful.
very, well, it's also very hilly, so when you look at it,
But it's got-
it's not flat.
A lot of birds up there.
Okay, so it sounds to me, like we would just say something about the concern with the adjacent parcel and breaking and cutting
Yeah.
off access to the other
And I
parcel.
think the traffic on 32, you can see that that's a
Yeah,
problem.
it's right there.
It's like, there's problem written all over it, between the access to Golden Hill and the access over there.
Well, you could put a stop sign. I'll stop.
Well, we'll have to put a traffic light, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I mean about development. It's gonna create traffic problems, like by Adams, that's in town of Ulster, that's gonna be a nightmare.
Then you
Yeah,
have
that's much closer where the Pettit is really just a street like that ends in nothing. You can,
There's no street there right now.
no, there is some asphalt and paving, yeah. Okay,
All right, so, well, this isn't gonna be more than a couple of paragraphs.
okay,
on
and I can look at it.
Connectivity and traffic, I think those
I
are-
just can't write it.
And if I see something else from our review from last year, I'll throw that in.
Okay.
But
All
let's, let's
right,
not.
so can we have have a motion to move a letter forward? And let, he will write it, I'll look at it. and
I make a
you'll
motion
look at it.
That the CDC write a letter regarding the Boulevard project, development project, that be sent to the planning board. Is that how we get it?
For the hearing,
For the hearing, the public hearing next week.
okay.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna skip through here. I want to report quickly, I'm gonna skip gas-powered leaf blowers. Letter to the planning department, I did hear back from Suzanne, and she suggested that we look at, she said that they do their best, and, you know, every situation is different. And she did suggest that we go ahead and look at the projects beforehand and submit our comments, and she would be, you know, listen to us.
what we did for the one property.
Yeah,
like
yes.
inviting our comments on landscape plans that haven't been implemented yet. Is that-
Right, yeah. But the other thing that just happened was, or just saying where is the plan. But the other thing is, it turns out that our new urban planner has been assigned to review the landscaping. And that kind of happened simultaneously, like our letter was in draft form from November to
That wasn't
December.
happening before, right?
Yeah,
That's part
and
of
it wasn't.
That's
Yeah.
a new development.
So that's a new development.
This is a new
I spoke
person?
to Brendan, he was at our last.
Oh, right, the forester guy.
Yeah, the forester. So he has a lot of knowledge and he's already started to look at this. And so I feel really good about that, you know, so that he's there. And he's definitely said, and so I've spoken to him twice. He said that he's definitely picking up on very obvious things and even less obvious, like barberry, for instance, is something you don't want to plant. And so he's been picking up on that, but he also both gave me some suggestions about the fact that the form-based code is not, it says kind of, you should, or you could, there's all these words that are a little bit, they're not, you must, and stuff like that. So one of the things, not right now, but we could kind of look through that and send a recommendation to the zoning review committee to say, we think this areas could be beefed up. And then also, I suggested, but one of the things we could do is put the information about native plants and get a really nice resource list that could be on our website, but that people could commit to, or, Suzanne could point people to that. So that would be a homework thing, which,
Yeah, those,
Which
I
we
think
just-
some of those lists already exist.
it's really
They have a
easy.
huge list. There's
Yeah.
lots of information.
Yeah, there's lots of information, it's
Just
just
have to look
putting
it
it
up
in one spot.
And
instead
promote
of
it,
just-
because, also the zoning is about the intent though. That's important.
Yeah.
If no one follows the intent,
Yeah.
it's kind of meaningless.
And then thirdly, apparently, and I need to do more homework on this, but even though one of the issues is that the tree code, the the law that set up the tree commission, it actually lists all the plants, and that should not be in there anymore, but no one has taken that action to change that code.
Burns is doing that,
And he's doing that?
yes.
Okay, so we don't have to
Change the
worry about.
species.
So what, yeah, because there's this like.
Like
whole
Norway
long
maple,
list,
not like
And then it would be, then that could be, first of all, the tree commission can have a really up-to-date list, and it can just be moved, updated, but it's not in law. It's not in the code. So if we don't have to do anything about this except for support it, that's good. So I don't think we have to take any action tonight about this, but I did want to report on it.
So Brendan is gonna look at the Pacific property that we did go into detail with pictures, which is that cannabis store in Green Hill.
I'm not gonna say he did that.
But I mean, that's the one that we have a lot of information about with.
No,
photos.
I don't know if he looked at that. He probably didn't because he wasn't doing it.
But I mean, that was the main thrust of the letter, the others were
No.
added on.
Well, but the point is that he wasn't doing that review.
No, I'm
Oh.
not saying it, I'm just saying Suzanne's reaction, that, she said something that we didn't, you said something that we should have mentioned more about it or something?
No, she didn't say that. She just said everyone is different and, she,
But I mean, we had a very specific project we were talking about, that's what I'm
Not-
saying.
I can always meet with her, and I didn't meet with her because I only got her answer recently. So, are you asking whether or not they're gonna change it?
I'm saying that we said, here's an example where there's
Right.
very minimal planting and it's not what the code says.
Yeah,
And what are you gonna do, and we wish you would enforce the code.
yeah. Well, we didn't
So-
get any answer about enforcing the code, so.
And I'm just saying, we had a lot about that particular property.
Yeah.
And why it would be good, and so it'd be good to get more of a response, I'm saying. I
Okay,
think.
I can follow up on that. Okay, so Julie, can we skip the REIP?
Yes.
Okay. Anything on Kingston or organics that we can, okay, what about community based, the Community Preservation Fund?
It's in effect, we are accepting applications, and we'll be submitting a recommendation to the Common Council at the end of this month for appointment to the board as of next month, and we've gotten lots of applications.
That's great.
Well, that's great.
That's great.
Also, by the way, if we would have had this in effect in 2024, we would have raised $1,194,340.
Wow. That's amazing.
Amazing.
Now, hopefully everything will keep moving in. Okay, so let me see. I have nothing on the business park. Does anyone else? BOA, nothing. Okay, the LWRP grant, we got funded. Who is managing that?
Likely the planning office.
The planning office, okay. And the Esopus stream management people are very happy that the Esopus was included in that. And that was where I'm just gonna give a really short thing that the mayor announced at his state of the city that they used like recovery funds to put a USGS stream gauge into the round out, or they funded it for 3 years at $14,000 a year. And there used to be a gauge there, and it really gave really amazing data during Hurricane Lee and Irene and Superstorm Sandy, and that'll be back in.
In July.
So, in July, near the Maritime, well, I assume it's gonna be there.
Yes.
Anything on native planting or spotted?
LWRP,
That was it.
that's it.
Right now, because we just got funding, but we don't have, and Sue's, the planning department might be taking the lead on
Okay, I thought you were talking about Midtown Thriving.
it. No,
Okay.
There's no-
It went-
yes,
Yeah. So nothing on pollinators except that Hudson Valley Bee Habitat, I did run into one of the women that runs it. She gave me her card, I can't find the card, I went on the website, tried to contact her, it doesn't take. So I was gonna
All right,
follow
give
up with them to invite her to one of our meetings, but
Okay.
I'll keep working on that.
I think I know how to get a hold of that
Yeah.
person.
I just need to know a week in advance to put it on the agenda or not.
Yeah,
I will let you know as soon as I contact them.
Okay.
Anything on organics before we,
no,
Just that we've now passed 50 tons.
Up over 50 tons.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, there's no action on wetland preservation except for the regulations were completed on December 31st.
I will say Brendan did put together a map to,
Oh, yeah.
if you wanted.
I did, I mean, we can do that maybe next time,
No,
just for time, but I do have a map that has all the parcels that intersect with the
Wow.
wetlands in Kingston. I also have the addresses of all the owners of those parcels. I think there was a talk last time about.
Great,
I'd
yeah,
love to see that.
okay,
So,
great.
for
So
that.
then we can submit a request to DEC a little later in the year. That's awesome. Okay. The Lower Silver Stream Management Plan, the resolution that, was put before the laws and rules didn't pass in December, and it's up tomorrow again, and, hopefully then it will get passed in laws and rules. And the idea was just to, the resolution was just to say, we approve of the stream management implementation plan, and, and it talks about how it would affect the city of Kingston. So that's hopefully gonna move forward. I'm gonna skip PCBs to go to the year-end report, because I think Julie needs that, right?
Yeah, I don't know if everyone's taking it or not, but this is it. I think everyone's comments that you submitted, they are incorporated. I did include Kevin's latest note.
I'm sorry about that.
If no one has any issue with it, then you should adopt it, and then it would get finalized and presented to council. There's a formatting on the bottom line, I think, on our.
And is this final, so if I go to the, public safety? Or you send it anyway, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know, I just want to go through and see, is there any, in case we want to talk a little longer, but Maria has to leave.
Are you going to approve it?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Do we need to approve it?
You should approve it.
Motion
Okay.
approved.
All in favor? Okay. Any objection? Okay. Sorry for moving it. I'm gonna skip the retreat. I want to wait for Lynn for a minute with the washable wipes. Can we, sorry, Kevin, you said that you were gonna try to review the farmland.
I
prevention.
started doing it. I don't have a draft prepared for everybody. Yeah, and they do mention Lynn and Black Hands Farm and the White Farm. in there.
Okay,
So those are the two areas I'm concentrating on, Kingston. I'm not
Okay.
going out
so,
over the county on this.
okay, so are you all set for the January 30th deadline? Because we won't meet again.
Well, I will have to be, yes.
Okay,
Because,
so we already said that that would be okay for
yeah,
you to
yeah,
send,
yeah,
because
it's not gonna be
I'll work
huge,
with you to
yeah.
send, okay.
It's not gonna be huge, because
All right.
we only have limited.
So I just
size.
wanted to make sure we didn't have to vote on anything for that.
It could be an action item, so I'll write it up.
Okay, all right, so for flushable wipes, can you?
Well, the main thing is I was gonna invite Alan Winchell, but he's
Mhm.
on vacation till January 20th. So I wrote
Oh,
my
right.
calendar. So when he comes back, I did talk to these people at the county who are working on this. I learned more about it. I can go over it, but one woman made a video, I looked at it, it wasn't that good, but the idea was maybe talking to, no, I just write this all down. But the main thing is calling Alan Winchell and trying to
Right.
quantify some of the damage. So that's the main thing and when he's agreed, hopefully he'll agree to come to one of our meetings, and I'll let Julie know. But I'm
Is
gonna
that
call him.
okay? Yeah,
Yeah, I will call him when he
or
gets
should
back.
we just meet with them
It's
That
not
would
in
up
his
to me.
office?
The thing about having staff come to city meetings is that they then get paid overtime. So it would be 3 hours of overtime to come to our meeting, but if he only talks to us for 5 minutes. So he would have to get permission from his boss in order to come.
And that's why I suggested that we just meet at his office.
Oh, okay, so we'll
I
just
would
set a time for him and then we'll just be available, some of us, and go meet with him?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, I'm sure he'd rather do that anyway. And blah, 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 you know, there are other laws around, but we know that they've languished, and so they were suggesting that we contact our representatives who would probably be more amenable to pushing these bills than Orange County, where they're from, where there's not much interest, Republicans.
Mhm.
And
And
then
is
there's,
this Congress and
yeah,
Senate?
I'm sorry, I wrote the whole thing here, I sent it to you, but I can read it. There's a federal law to label the flushable rights not as flushable passed the House, but language committee of the Senate. Perhaps we should reach out to our senators, also reach out to Hinchy and Sarahana about the state laws that have languished. The real issues these wipes are made of, that the best law would be to prevent them from being made in the first place. Neil, he's another guy I talked to, shared that several states, one of which is Michigan, have passed laws regarding labeling the wipes as non-flushable. He mentioned that the federal bill that passed the House was signed on to both by the wastewater treatment industry and the wipes industry, the point being that the law is perfectly reasonable, even industry agreed to it.
Okay.
So then they talked about maybe doing, how to educate municipalities, maybe doing a short video talking about the problem. And that would be a way to have, but not just to say it's on the website, actually show it at a meeting.
Right, so
But the video hasn't really happened, what I saw was not just.
the action item for us would be to decide if we want to just write or we want to ask, you know, the common council or something to take
Hinchy and
action.
Sarahana, and then,
No, but also Ryan and,
but you know, also they were talking about an educational campaign
yeah,
for people.
but I think that's the first thing we can do is write the letter. I mean, now we have a whole different Congress and Senate and it may not go anywhere, but this can all wait.
Let's meet with Alan when he comes back and then take it from there.
Okay.
I'll just point out one thing on this topic. So, there's a Bartolom who has done an entire, like TV show about why flushable wipes are so, damaging. And, the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina actually used it in like a public.
See, that's what we need,
Yeah, that's
because I
good.
know there's hundreds of YouTube
Yeah.
Can
videos
you
out there.
like send a link from it?
Yeah. I'll
Yeah,
forward it.
oh my
It's
God,
Adam
that's so exciting.
Oliver. He's a,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Adam Ruins Everything. It's his TV show. And he did one of his, he graduated from Art in 04. Anyway, I will send this.
Thank you so
Great,
much,
yeah,
because
that
that
would
would
be
be perfect, thank you. Okay, and someone already is using it, wow. All right, anything else on that? Okay, CAC outreach distribution list, recruitment. So anything,
On there, 'cause we
Yes,
said-
all right,
said
so
at the
I-
last meeting we
I-
should put it on this meeting.
we are having a distribution list, I got one, so. I will let you know where you can sign up and like let other people know that you can sign up for the distribution list. And I was wondering if there's any volunteer to contact high school again about getting someone to join our CAC. Is there anyone that would be interested? I really regret not having Brianna really work on this because she's the most recent graduate or graduate.
The idea is having a younger person like at that
Yeah.
age.
The high school.
If you send me like a little description, I can send it to the Brothers at Bard, which is a program that we do in the high school. And-
Oh,
and they,
okay.
they meet at least once a week with this, like year round, with this group of young men. And
Well, that's great.
yeah,
Okay,
young men of
Thank you.
color. So, you know, we need more diversity on the
Yeah.
kids group.
okay, awesome. Thank
Is there
you.
anything else you need me, I mean, you guys are gonna lose?
25 meeting schedule.
Hmm?
Meeting schedule for 2025. You have to
I
decide.
thought we already, oh, do we have to actually officially say? Oh,
So we
so
talked about it. Did we talk about it?
Yeah, we did.
Covered it
we
briefly.
kind of said like, is everyone okay
Okay.
with Tuesday
And we
at 6 o'clock?
asked you, Tuesday's okay with you?
Are you okay with it?
Yeah, I was saying is now, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
So.
The only,
do we
so I'm
have
gonna put it all on the calendar, the only exception in 25 will be the 11th of November. So I will send it for the following day, or the day before, or we can decide when it gets closer.
Does anyone care that,
That's a holiday or something?
yeah, it's a Veterans Day.
Veterans.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm sure we can work around it like you suggested.
Yeah, the 12th is fine.
Alright.
Okay. And thank you.
Oh,
thank
is
you
that a
so
Wednesday?
much,
Wednesdays are never
Maria.
good for me.
Oh,
Is that Wednesday?
Monday?
Yeah, Wednesday would not work for me.
Monday the 10th, Monday the.
Monday would be fine.
I don't want to do that because it's a 4-day weekend. So.
How about Thursday?
How about we just decide when it gets closer?
Yeah.
Thank you, Delia.
Oh, yes, thank you, I'm sorry.
And I enjoyed what you said on the radio today.
Oh,
Oh,
When are you on the
did
radio?
you like that guy?
I know that next guy
when are
was
you on
tough.
the radio?
Couple times a month.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm.
They'll tell you about it.
Okay.
New conservative columnist on
It was tough.
Is this like AMC or?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Wow.
All right, see ya.
Okay,
Okay,
bye.
so, all right, so we're okay. Landfill leachate report. I am not ready to take action on this, so it's okay that Malia left, but we also have a quorum, right? So, so there's a letter that, all right, who needs filling in on the landfill leachate?
I was reading the material this afternoon.
I did a deep dive today.
You did? Okay, so are you aware
I
of
happen to know about this anyways.
it?
I mean,
Okay,
assuming it's the same thing,
okay,
so.
it's,
And here locally, the leachate from the former landfill near the mall goes to our wastewater treatment.
Mhm.
That's the local thing.
Landfills that go to our local.
Oh, I didn't see
four,
that.
I knew there was a, yeah,
Yeah.
which are the four then? Hurley,
I don't know really, but I assume the one by the mall, and I
And
know
then-
the other two.
the Lloyd and New Paltz.
How does that work? They take the liquid out and they bring it by truck?
Yes.
Yeah, and the day well, just
What
coincidence,
else is gonna happen with water, you know?
but it's been happening, I mean, I was at
So many things.
the Italian restaurant on Broadway and it came by, you
It's a
know,
blue truck.
The
it's
truck,
a big blue
It's a big blue
tank.
truck, and it comes all the time.
wow.
We're
So-
permitted to take it.
And it's been coming since I worked.
So Fort Ewan's getting its water from the river, not that far downstream.
So, and, you know, I talked a little bit about it to Eli too, but just to, you know, get his perspective and, you know, it's something that we weren't, I don't know, we just didn't know, right? Or maybe they did, that's why they're calling it the loophole, I think that river people really wanted to.
Because I was trying to figure out what they do about it, so all I read was that you should process the water at the site, but with equipment? I mean,
Well,
what-
in a big
it sounds
landfill,
like
like,
hugely,
at a big landfill that probably is still operating, they would put in a water treatment plant
right at the,
site.
but these
they
are
would need
older
to be-
ones that weren't lined correctly.
But they would need to be regulated to be removing anything that's different that we're not already removing at the wastewater treatment plant. So it is being treated at the wastewater treatment plant and then discharged. We're treating it to the regulations that we're supposed to be
No, I
treating.
understand, everything's legal, it's just.
Everything is legal. So if everything were to change, the materials that they would be treating it for would have to change. So we're not removing PFAS, we're not removing metals, we're not
And-
removing any of those things, but we're not required to. And
And-
so those things would have to be in place at another location.
Right, because they can't retrofit the plant to deal with that stuff. We're talking about
Those
millions,
things are-
billions of dollars, right?
Yeah, so the cost of everything would go up and there would be pressure on the plants that could take it.
So sorry, I'm interrupting.
No,
Who owns so the landfill, who owns the landfill? The city?
so so in around 1996, 1993, Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency was created, and part of the things that they did at the very beginning was take over the running of 3 landfills, Lloyd, New Paltz, and the town of Ulster, and they ran them for several years. And all the other landfills in the county, because every town had a landfill, they all closed. And the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency has that responsibility of monitoring for the leachate and to flare the gas and everything else. And the town of Hurley also's leachate is going there. I'm not really sure what's happening on like the closed Rosendale or Woodstock or, anyway, the other ones, but I mean, so that is So
Okay.
Ulster County Resource Recovery
Got
Agency
it.
owns it and has a responsibility
Right.
for those three.
Right, but also I'm wondering about the former landfill at Kingston Point, that's probably leaching in the river.
That's probably so old that,
There's no leachate collection from that system.
yeah, there's nothing.
So you mean it probably isn't, or it's too old, or?
Well, if it is leaching, you're right, it's
I mean,
leaching.
it's right
But
on the river.
but the thing is that
Well, we don't,
that
that's
is
a
such
separate
an old
issue, that's a
landfill.
separate issue in a way.
That's a really.
Maybe that's
old
before people
landfill.
ate all these chemicals, right?
So-
Jets and all these pharmaceuticals.
That was a different type of landfill, though. There was an ash landfill, so there was an incinerator used in the city, and the incinerating ash was put there. Not
Okay.
just like our.
It wasn't garbage.
So,
So it's the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency that's responsible
for
for
those.
getting
three,
like
yes,
equipment that they can, ideally, that they would get the money or whatever, they would provide the equipment to treat the
Oh,
water.
but what I'm saying is I don't think that these closed landfills, I didn't read that they were suggesting that closed landfill get treatment. But maybe I'm wrong.
No, I don't think they have a plan yet, is
Yeah.
my take, but the loophole is that if it's being treated at the landfill, you have to filter out the 14 chemicals, but if you ship it, you don't have to,
Oh,
so
so that's it,
that's the loophole.
that's why they ship it.
Yeah, so we don't have to do it on.
So there is a
site.
requirement on
There's a-
site,
On site, if you do it on.
there are
site.
standards,
But
got
they
it.
don't. So, yeah, I think.
I mean, I wonder,
Yeah.
I wonder, are there any landfills that are actually doing that, treating it at the site that we know
I think
of?
so, I don't know them, but it seemed like, it implied that there were.
Yeah, so what we can do is decide if we want to move, send in a letter, ask the county, the city common council to send in a letter.
The mayor has submitted a letter to the state, that sits pushing for the state to advance the ruling that they said that they would be working on. And the ruling would be changing the regulations on what happens with leachate. That letter has been submitted.
All right, okay,
So
so
when
he
the-
moved right ahead.
So when the
Yes.
state changes the rules, then they can no longer have the wastewater treated at the plant.
I don't know what the ruling will be.
Yeah, they're just trying to.
But that obviously be something like that, right? So it doesn't go into the river.
I don't even want to suggest what it might be. I mean.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah,
It could be.
the point is, I didn't feel like we needed to do this tonight. And also Riverkeeper would come to talk to us. I'm not sure we need that because I think it was pretty clear what they're asking. And you can watch their video and you can, but I wasn't really ready to take any action tonight. So we're just tracking it. Is there any objection to that? And Malia had asked very specific questions, like, so if we did if we did put in the letter, we could put Kingston specific content, right? Yeah. Okay. Is there any open issue discussion? Are there any communications?
No.
Okay, the only announcement I wanted to do was, I wanted to let you know that there's on January 24th from 10 to 11, there is a presentation on predicting and preparing for extreme precipitation in regards to the Ashokan Reservoir. And I heard a lot of this at the Water Quality Coordinating Committee, but they're pushing it out there to other people. So I think they already forwarded you this, but it's, here's the actual thing, if you're interested. It's basically like if you could be interested, because if the Ashokan is really full and there's a big storm,
We're down water, right?
yeah, we're done.
We're done.
So,
I've thought about that. Look at a topographical map. If that reservoir ever went, where would the water go?
goes
Go
down
right
like
down.
Silver Spur.
We're like at sea level.
We have a response plan.
What?
We have a response plan.
I'm sure we do. What, like evacuation or what?
It depends on.
Have lifeboats
how
on
much time
your
we have, how much notice we have.
Well,
That's
what
amazing.
we
What
have a
actually
response
happens.
fund.
We have one for all the dams in the area.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Has that been the case for a long time or fairly recent?
I mean, I'm buying 2 binders for all of them.
Oh my goodness, I'm glad to know we're so prepared.
We may not look it, but we're very prepared for a lot of things.
Wow, that's really, I'd love to know about that another time.
Yeah,
So where is this meeting? This is,
oh, it's a Zoom, so
Oh, it's
you
a
just
Zoom?
sit. in-
but you said that, you
One
said
of
that,
them.
you said the link, right? So I can look. at the
Yeah,
side.
yeah, I just wondered, so that was one.
But if we already have a
response.
response, then is it necessary to look at it? Since our city already has it.
Well, this is more than just what happens with the Ashokan, right?
Yeah. This is,
I mean, what I'm wondering is, with the extreme rain events we've had, what has been the situation with the reservoir? I don't think we've really had any so extreme, right, that there was a threat or a problem with it. Because they can let the water out, they can
not
control
in
the water.
time necessarily, that's the thing, so.
Well, the response plan that we have is for a failure of the dam.
It just gives way,
Or
doesn't overflow,
some amount of failure, yes, which
Uh-huh.
could be small to catastrophic.
right? Because did you guys happen to see the New York Times had a whole thing about landslides, the danger of landslides, which apparently is a huge threat. They had a map showing all the areas because of these extreme rain and
Yeah.
any like low slope. Like I think in the Catskills, those would be areas, just was another thing to worry about.
Oh, let's not worry.
But we don't have to worry about
it.
that here. We're not in
Yeah.
like Margaretville or something.
So I would just say that, Irene and Lee were pretty scary when you talk about how much water came down the Esopus. And the round out, to answer your question.
No, I remember.
All right, any reports and updates? Okay, so one of the things we do need people to go to the Complete Streets and possibly the Tree Commission. So please think about wanting to do that. I do want to say that the Tree Commission, I'm going to jump ahead for a minute, they're meeting tomorrow. They usually meet right here at 4, and then we meet at 6 or 4:30 to 6. They had to meet tomorrow for some reason.
I can't go tomorrow, but I could go, normally.
Oh,
Before our
Tree
meeting, I
Commission.
should go, yeah, but I can't go tomorrow, can't go on
Okay.
Wednesday. So I'll write it down.
Okay. And, okay, so the public safety liaison, they haven't had a meeting, and December was weird because of the holidays, which I didn't go to. Okay, so no action on that, but I will be reporting the annual report, or reminding them of the annual report. I think I'll maybe give him some information, then give them a little bit of, maybe one slide of Eli's talk, because they're interested in that also. But I really liked what he said about action.
Yeah.
Maybe. Anyway, is there anything else you want me to talk to the public safety liaison, or to the public safety committee? I'll try to be their liaison. Climate Smart?
Yeah, the TENS meetings have been ongoing. I think I missed the last one. I had a last minute scheduling conflict. I wasn't there, but is there anything? No, okay. And then I think we just ran through the usual agenda for the last meeting. That would include the city sustainability projects, update on the green hydrogen, which may not be going anywhere. Cal reported on youth engagement. Phil provided a brief update on the city fleet. There was a review of where we were at then on the community preservation plan and fund, which is already old news, so I don't know if we need to cover that. And then there's planning for the Earth Fair. That's probably the most important new thing. That's
Has that already got a date?
May 10th, Saturday, May 10th.
Yeah, the planning sessions, I think, are already in progress.
She started planning meetings yesterday.
Oh,
We'll
cool.
be meeting bi-weekly.
Yeah.
It's May 10th from 11 to 5. Same time, same place.
All right. Okay. NISAC, Julie.
Planning is ongoing. I don't really have anything to report. The dates have not been established yet.
Okay, the Ulster County Environmental Management Council. So we met on like December 7th or something, so we haven't met again, but I'm on the nominating committee because our chair is not going to continue. So we have to find a chair by the last Wednesday in January. So, which is 2 weeks away. And they have to be a member of the CAC or of the Environmental Management Council. So it's kind of a small group. And I was reappointed also to that by the county legislature, but I'm willing to give it up. And though I do want to say everyone's doing so much amazing things, and sometimes the speakers are really good, like Jack. And, okay, so we added the Hudson Valley Alliance for Housing and Conservation because Kevin is on that. Are you a member or are you a?
Yeah, I represent the Kingston Land Trust.
Oh, right, the land
Yeah.
trust, so
So,
do you mind if we put you on the
yeah,
agenda?
sure. We don't always have an update, depends if we met or not.
Mhm.
We're working on a strategic planning for 2025. And one of the big items that we're kicking around is proposal for a statewide community preservation fund / community housing fund, or whether that should be one proposal or it should be two proposals, the way it has been previously. And whether it should be limited to the Hudson Valley, because that might be an easier lift for the state legislature, because you might have people, and you will have people from elsewhere in the state that say, no, we don't want this.
Yeah.
It's not our priority. So that's what we're kicking around, strategic planning and how to present it to the legislators during the budget process and the governor during the budget process, which has just begun for 2025.
Great. So that, I wanted to understand, is the community preservation program plan, has that been extended, has that been extended to the rest of the communities of the state? Because I thought it was Long Island and then it was the Hudson,
A few communities a few municipalities in the Hudson Valley.
but they're allowed to do it. But
Right,
I heard that it wasn't allowed.
yeah, it's not covered in the code, right? And the
Is that
housing
true?
fund is only in Long Island, it's not
Mhm.
covered in the Hudson
Right.
Valley. We've been trying to do that
Mhm.
with Dee Dee Barrett, who represents Columbia County, Michelle Hinchey, and Sarah Hahn.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because I think it's really amazing and I was trying to figure out if it would apply to, like, if it would be interest to NISAC, but if these communities can't even have a fund, then it's not applicable unless they want to advocate for it. Yeah, okay.
Bedford wanted to have one, but it didn't pass.
So wait, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what this is.
Okay.
It's an Alliance for Housing and Conservation. What-
That's
yes,
a group that Steve Rosenberg and Rebecca Crimmins started after Steve left Stevie Hudson.
And it's planning for conservation and housing,
Yeah.
so that
yeah,
the codes,
The
like,
nexus of where the.
right, and that's an issue here, right? We're talking about sites that maybe should be conserved, that are,
Yeah, exactly.
that the housing people just want to get developed for housing.
So it's
So it's
really,
definitely an issue here.
it's really an innovative thing. It's basically.
To balance.
It's a bit, basically, I think it's a collective impact thing where collectively, groups that are trying to move something forward get together and figure out how they can work together as opposed to like
Being-
separately or fighting for funds. And so what has happened is they got all the land trusts and all the housing authorities to come together to work on this. And it's really amazing. So they're, the one president, I mean, Steve. Anyway, I was very impressed by the project in Red Hook, which is
Cookingham Farm.
Cookingham Farms, where it's gonna be some housing and they're gonna preserve.
And they're using the community preservation.
So maybe-
You want to speak to that, you probably
Yeah.
know more than.
Probably not too much more.
But I mean, I'm just thinking, maybe we want to meet with Bartok, our housing guy. I mean, he's, you know, like, he wants to do housing everywhere. Maybe we need to have a conversation with him about just this issue. You know,
That's
like,
an idea.
I mean, I'm just thinking, I would love to hear his thoughts, communicate with him, but I'm concerned about, wanting to put housing everywhere. I mean, I just think like it has to be strategic. And we have a real issue here because we still have land that we want to preserve.
Mhm.
We have empty lots from urban renewal that never got built. There's always somebody opposing whatever it is. But I'm just thinking if we would somehow have a conversation with him and then maybe join forces somehow.
I mean, I think that's probably a conversation that the Community Preservation Advisory Board will be taking up. I don't know what action would be taken by the CAC.
Right, because they're the ones that would be looking to purchase and protect land. That totally makes sense, Julie. So we're gonna have that vehicle.
Yes.
We're gonna have some.
When are they gonna start meeting?
February.
They
Oh,
are.
no, that doesn't make sense. April.
Oh, wow.
Because the recommendations will go to the council at the end of this month. It will be on laws and rules or public safety
Yeah.
next month. Then it'll be voted on in March by the council, and then the people will be appointed, so the first meeting will be April.
And then we, from the CAC, could go to those meetings or interact with them, right?
Or serve on it.
Or survey, you could apply to be on it.
I think there's lots of applications, right?
There are. Also, I will be the staff liaison, so I can certainly I will report on it at these meetings.
I mean, maybe I will apply because I'm concerned about these things.
Provides priority for members of the CAC, Climate Smart Kingston, and the HLPC.
So
I was looking for that code and thank you for pointing that out.
And
Are
we can
those
still
the
apply, right?
only
I
ones
think-
that are like affiliated with something?
No, I think other people are applying.
And it's
That are
nine,
called out, that are called out. Those
Yeah,
are
yeah, they're-
Those are the
and
calls.
it's 9 members, correct?
7. I think 7.
7, and then who decides, like if you have too many people?
The common council will decide.
So they will decide, okay, well, maybe I'll apply. And the deadline for applying is January 23rd or something?
I
That's
don't
what I,
remember when I did the
That's
deadline.
Yeah,
right.
anyway, I think, well, anyway,
Probably, definitely by the end of next week at the latest.
okay.
is there something I should do to follow up with my applications? I mean, that one, clearly the date isn't ripe yet, shall we say?
You might resend it. Did you do it on the Survey Monkey?
Yeah.
I'll reach out to Summer tomorrow.
I did it the same day it came out, like right after our meeting.
Oh,
so did I, and
then
mine
you-
went
you
mine
sent
went
something
like that.
I submitted it with the community preservation plan, the Climate Smart and CAC.
all in one?
Yeah, it said you could do it, you just check off the box.
Yeah,
Right.
okay. Well,
And then I
that was-
put that I was an existing member at the resume and the whole.
Well, you
nine
two
yards.
guys are on it
Okay, no,
then. Don't worry.
if that's the case, then I have your application already, but I have it under the context of community preservation plan. I didn't acknowledge that it was all, so that's on me.
Oh, okay, good.
One of the things I was doing with the Climate Smart was considering being a non-voting member. Just to increase my capacity. Yeah,
It sounds like,
If you want to make that happen, I can make that happen, because
I probably should, because, I'm just, every time we have to
wait,
change.
then you wouldn't, are you secretary of the Climate
I
Smart?
would still stay
It's
as,
still come.
there's no prohibition against that.
Okay.
And
It's
don't
just
even put it in, don't even put it in the universe that that would be a thing. That you would not be the secretary.
I won't say anything. I take it back.
Okay, I'm gonna move you over to non-voting.
All right, so,
But, yeah, just make sure we have, with the non-voting that, who was it? Zane. Zane's still around, but he's
See, I got moved to non-voting and I haven't heard a single word said.
Right,
That's
but
just
isn't
gonna
one of the and then Anthony is non-voting. And then the third one, is that supposed to be a youth
Doesn't
member?
matter. Counting.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we can adjourn,
Yeah,
adjourn.
right, I think we can.
Um, Yeah. Is
Well, I
there
make the
anything
motion
else?
to- Oh, sorry.
Yes, and also I just want to remind you, like Julie and I decide the agenda, but there's no reason that you can't let me know. Would anyone like a reminder every week, like we do it the Tuesday before this? You know, so we would have done it on the 7th, so.
I don't think so, I think it works, it's been working out for me.
Let us know. Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, we want you out.
So, yeah, but if you have a speaker in mind and stuff, then.
I will let you know when I contact Alan immediately when,
No, we're
and that would not be
gonna-
on the agenda, because that'll be at his office.
Yeah, let me know.
But all the members should know, right? So what?
Yeah. All right, motion to adjourn.
I make the motion to adjourn.
And I'll second
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
it. Okay.
It's cold weather. Rickety,
Really? You look,
Layers of clothing.
you're talking to an ice boater and an ice.
Oh, right,
bucket
you're the